Hey guys, I'm really excited about an incredible opportunity to show you an extremely rare gun. But before I do that, I want to do a shout out to Bill. Bill served our country and was in Special Forces. He came by and picked up an item. I can't tell you what he got. That's a HIPAA violation. But he mentioned to me that he watches my videos and tries to get his wife to watch, but she refuses. So I'll bet he can get her to watch this one. Thanks for watching. Hey, so this gun is extremely rare, and I feel very, very blessed. I joke around a lot, but seriously, what a great job. I could not even find Ian McCollum from Forgotten Weapons. I couldn't find him talking about this gun. I've never seen one before in my life. I feel incredibly blessed that people actually just send me this stuff. Now, the guy who sent this gun also sent a Singer several months ago. He sent us a Singer and asked us to sell it for him. We sold it, I think, within one day. And of course, we were all really pleased, but he followed up by sending me a North American Arms 1911 made in 1918. So that's a mouthful. Let me get a grasp on this. This is a North American Arms model 1911 made in 1918. Now, if you never heard of North America Arms, and I knew very little about it because that's why this is an educational video, I'm learning along with you about this particular gun. In fact, when I did the video about the Singer, I said the Singer is the rarest of the 1911s. They only made 500. Several people, should have been a lot more, but only several people said, you forgot North American Arms. I actually did forget North American Arms, and it's easy for collectors to forget about them because none of the 100 guns that they made at least made the parts for at least 100 guns to be put together. None of those were ever delivered or accepted by the U.S. military. So some people say these don't count, but in my world, all guns count. So let me go back and correct. The Singer is not the rarest 1911. The North American Arms is the rarest 1911. So if you Google North American Arms, if you're like me and say, I never heard of these people, you Google North American Arms, here's what you're going to see. A bunch of little Derringers, probably well made, but not. They're fairly cheap. The company started in 1972, and they're headquartered out in Utah. And they make these little Derringers. That's not a 1918, 1911. So therefore, this is a completely separate company that's headquartered in Canada. Now, let me go over some history, some background education. And again, I learned a lot just doing this gun, doing research on this gun. I'm going to go over a little bit of history, and then we're going to get up close and show you the gun and compare it to a Colt. So I've already mentioned there's only 100 of these made. 25 are known. So simple math is 25% survival rate. 25 are known. Serial numbers range from number 4 is the earliest. There was one that they said was number 1, but there was controversy about it. It was probably not really numbered or never numbered. So technically, and from my point of view, having looked at number 1, I'm not too sure about it. But from 4 to 99 would be, I would say, the serial range. And this one, by the way, is number 9, so it's pretty early on. There is one known fake, and that's on the list. If you ever contemplate buying one of these guns, contact us. We can share the list of known guns, and we can do the same thing with Singer. I'm not allowed to publish it because it was given to me with the understanding that I wouldn't publish it. With Singer, there were 500 made, 163 are known, meaning we have known serial numbers, and 24 of them are listed as fake. Now, when they say 24 of the 163 are fake, clarification would be they consider a fake if it's, let's say if it was refinished, then it's been altered in some way, and they would say it's not really a fake gun, but it's been an altered gun, not all original. Some of them had parts swapped out. Some of them were re-arsenaled and parkerized, and then somebody took off the parkerization and so anything that's been altered, 24 are altered in some way. And then there are out-and-out fakes where somebody takes maybe a Singer slide and gets a Colt bottom and renumbers it, or somebody just makes the whole thing. They do the logo is redone, the serial number is redone, and the whole thing is fake. But again, out of 163 known, 24 are listed as fakes. We can share that information if you're contemplating buying one. Give me a serial number and we can check it out for you. But survival rate on the Singer is 27%, which makes sense because they were made in 38, 39. These were made decades earlier. So let's just go through the different makers because most of you are familiar. In World War II, COLT made hundreds of thousands. Remington made hundreds of thousands. Ithaca made a couple 100,000. And then Union Switch and Signal was a very much smaller number. I think it was about 55,000. And then finally, Singer made 500. So those are the makers of World War II. Most of you collectors are familiar with those names. However, many of you are not familiar with World War I 1911s, and that would be, of course, COLT, who made hundreds of thousands. And what I read, this was interesting and, again, educational. When COLT got the contract with the U.S. government to make the 1911 for World War I, it was stipulated that it not be a single source provider. The government didn't want a single source provider. We have that problem today. So, for example, the government has microchips. If they're all coming from a foreign country and from the same place, if we go to war and they shut it off, we're in trouble. So the U.S. government very wisely said, COLT makes a great product. COLT can fill these orders. However, we don't want a single source. So they went to the Springfield Armory in World War I up until actually 1917. So 1914 to 1917, Springfield Armory made 25,000 1911 Colts. Remington UMC made 20,000. Now, another educational point. Remington UMC, that stands for Union Metallic Cartridges. They actually made ammo. They made other things, but they made ammo, and they got a contract to make 1911s. And so for World War I, they made 20,000. Remington UMC is not the same in World War II Remington. Remember I said that's actually Remington Rand, and a few of you corrected me on that last time. Remington is actually Remington Rand, which is a typewriter company. Singer is a sewing machine company. Union Switch makes switches and signals. So these companies were completely in different businesses, but they got government contracts to make 1911 A1s. Okay, so I mentioned Springfield Armory, Remington UMC. A lot of you don't know that actually Winchester, they were actually in talks to get a contract. The war ended before they started, but Winchester was contacted to do a contract of 1911s. And then finally, North American Arms. Now, North American Arms was given a contract to make up to 500,000. The agreement said that they could make 2,000 a day. They ended up only making 100. So there's a lot of mystery surrounding this gun, and a lot of different sources contradict each other. So here's the mystery. A group out of Canada, these were made in Quebec, Canada. Group out of Canada who never made guns. They had no factory. They had no materials. They had no experience. Got a contract to make up to 500,000 1911s. When they got the contract, again, they had no facility, so they took over or leased the Ross Rifle Company, which had gone out of business. The Ross Rifle Company in Canada was making rifles for World War I, but the quality was so poor, they lost their contract, and instead the Canadian Army used the British Enfield. So here's the empty Ross Rifle Company, which had been a failure. When they got this contract, the North American Arms, they had just formed in July of 1918. So, you know, the war ended in November. Turns out they didn't have the raw materials to make the guns, so they made what they called tool room samples. That's a mouthful. It's Friday afternoon. Tool room samples, and made 100 of them. Some people said they were not assembled. They were assembled when the war was over. But there is records of a couple of them being tested, and the government wasn't happy with the quality. So some had been assembled. All of them were just samples. None of them were accepted by the U.S. Army. None of them were issued to the Army. So 100 tool room samples were put together and sold to the public at some point. And as I said, 25 of them survived. Actually 24, one fake, 24 of them survived. And this is one of them. That's quite a mouthful. So first, you're going to look over my shoulder, and you're going to see that Rock Island sold one back in 2018, and the sale price was $218,000. A couple things that are interesting. This is about as good as they look. And I'm going to show you the logo, because on my logo, it's got a little dings in it. So first of all, let's focus in on that logo. And what I found fascinating is North American Arms is all the same font, but look at Limited. Limited is a smaller font. Not only is it smaller, but look at the I compared to the D. It like the whole thing goes downhill. So one of the things you want to keep in mind, if somebody is to fake these, they'd have to fake the mistakes. I mean, Limited is lopsided. So that's first and foremost, take a look at that. Also, we're going to look at the serial numbering on this gun, but you can see this one is number 73. And this is as nice as they come. Because one of the things they were not very good at is they weren't good at the finish. They didn't prepare the metal properly, and they used a different salt solution. They said it was a caustic salt solution with a lot of copper in it. If we look at the Rock Island one, up at the top of this slide, they talk about the copper turning the finish yellow. Also, in some places, the finish just flaked off or just fell off. And that was because of the poor quality finish. So if you look at most of them, they look more like this. Here's a couple that we found also that sold recently, and the finish is just completely gone. So if you find one, they're unlike the Singer, which has a beautiful finish and are very well made. North America Arms did a really poor job on finish, did a really poor job on production, and really failed to meet the government contract. How did they get that contract? Who knows? Could have been a quid pro quo kind of a situation where you do this for us, we'll do that for you. I don't know what went down. That's a mystery, but I don't know how a group of investors got a contract with the government to produce 500,000 guns when they had no experience producing guns. Now, in a previous video, I already talked about this one. This is actually from 1913, so there's a couple of differences that we'll ignore, but you can see the finish differences. The North America Arms, remember I mentioned about the logo right here. This is kind of goobered up a little bit, so you can't really see it, but it is correct. The font gets smaller and smaller. You can see Quebec, Canada. One of the other very noticeable things is on the hammer, there's no checkering. On the 1911s, there is always checkering. And also, the hammer is a little bit longer. It's not a big deal, but the hammer is just a little bit longer on this. Also, another difference is the number of serrations here, and the checkering here and here is different. So this is unique, the hammer is unique, and the finish is unique. The numbering is unique in that number 9 is here, here, and on the frame, it's underneath the grip. I'm going to take this grip off and show you, but first I want to mention also with this gun, these are the original grips, because people who are more anal retentive than I am actually count the number of checkerings. From this point to this point, there's 13 checkers. And by the way, Remington UMC is the only other company that made a grip that has 13 checkers between here, actually diamonds, 13 diamonds from here to here. These and the COLTs and the other wooden ones have between 15 and 16. It depends on how you count them, because sometimes like this has like a half a diamond. So 15 or 16 from here to here versus 13. There are no acceptance proof. You see here the acceptance proofs. That's the initials of the inspector, and all of the guns that went to the military will have that inspection proof. For certain time periods, the inspector would change, and so you'll have different initials. But this is the inspector in 1913. With the North American Arms, there is no inspector. Oh, and the barrel is not marked at all. There's no proof marks. There's no acceptance proofs. With this, I believe there are HP marked, and in World War II, for example, the COLT is marked Colt 45 Auto. This barrel has no markings at all. The other side, there's no markings. It doesn't say property of the U.S. Army. This one says property of the U.S. Navy. It actually says model 1911 U.S. Navy. This has no markings saying U.S. Army, U.S. Navy, nothing. And also you get an example of the finish. It just came off. Here could easily be holster wear, but this, not sure, just came off. But still, this is about, as I said, this is about as good as they come. This magazine is just a standard dual-tone magazine. Forget the lanyard loop because that went away after 1913, 1914, but it's a similar dual-tone. I'm not sure if it had a special magazine, but this one has a V right here, which is sometimes a British proof for Victoria in World War I time period. It looks like a V. I'm not sure if it is or not. And I don't know if there's a unique magazine for the North American arms, but this is the magazine that came with it. And everything else on this gun is correct. Everything that I examined was original. Let's just take a look at the 9. Notice the 9, by the way, is just a weird looking 9, which I thought that could be fake, because the bottom of the 9, the loop, the bottom of the 9 just looks a little bit weird, but it matches here. But then we went back and looked at pictures and found another one that was 94. And the 9 is exactly the same. We also found one that was like 34, and the 9 was exactly the same. So I'm convinced that this is a very rare, all original condition, only 100 made and 24 known, 1 fake, 25. Let's check out the final serial number. Okay, grips are off. You can see other side of the grip unmarked, but grips off. Not only do you see the 9 right here, but you kind of see there's like that reddish tint, and you can see the finish just kind of flaked off. Like it wouldn't be worn under there. So what happened? I think poor metal prep and maybe moisture getting in there. It flaked off. And the other side is even more so. You can see it here where the finish just deteriorated underneath the grip. Completely gone under there. So that's pretty cool just to show you how poor the finish was applied. But to get one last look at this, you may never see another one. I may never see another one. I don't know if this will sell or not. We have it on our website now. Please know that my goal in doing this video is not to sell you a gun. I realize if I get 4 million views, there might be only one person who would even be remotely interested. And I'm not going to get that many views. All I'm saying is this is an educational video, an opportunity to show you something extremely rare, and I may never get this chance again. And it's not German. Pretty cool, huh? Hey, thanks for watching. I really enjoyed bringing you that video. It's Friday afternoon and I'm ready to go home. But first, let me do a shout out to the guy who sent me this. What an incredible opportunity. First, you sent me a singer. You trusted us to sell that for you. I hope I can sell this for you, but thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to see such a rare and beautiful piece of history.